Quick review that viruses are creepy. They basically inject their code into your cells, and then that code makes you do all the work of creating more virus parts, and then those virus parts snap together, self-assemble, and bust your cells open, spewing thousands, if not millions, more viruses out into your body. It's creepy, right? But that's not all. They have other tricks as well. And so we'll talk about a couple of those tricks here. Number one, you've probably heard the term retroviruses. They use it in the movies a lot. Ooh, it's a retrovirus. And it is sneaky. Even sneakier than just injecting the DNA code, because a lot of species have evolved resistance and they're on the lookout for viral DNA. That's what CRISPR is, right? It's like a bacterial immune system against viral DNA. So retroviruses inject RNA instead of DNA, which sounds useless because RNA degrades pretty quick. It's not a permanent code, it's a temporary code, but retroviruses come with a special tool. They, in addition to the RNA they inject, they also inject an enzyme called reverse transcriptase. And reverse transcriptase, in combination with the viral RNA that retroviruses are injecting, makes retroviruses kind of dangerous. For a sticker, tell me what you think reverse transcriptase does. Chance.
I'm going to guess it goes along the chain of RNA and then it finds a place to cut and then it cuts it and injects DNA into the cell.
Nope. The virus injects both things into the cell, both the RNA that it has and the enzyme reverse transcriptase. What does reverse transcriptase do? Which is what? No?
It goes along the DNA, cuts the DNA open, and then implants the RNA into the DNA.
No, no.
Like, does it turn the seeds back to seeds and
In a way. So in order to know what reverse transcriptase does, you have to remember what transcription is. Because Grant's right, even though he was just kind of regurgitating the word, it's true. It does the reverse of transcription. So what is that? What is transcription? Does what? Now that's translation. Actually making the protein is translation. Transcription is the first step of gene expression, which is what? What is it doing? We start with DNA, and then transcription takes the DNA code and turns it into mRNA, right? So what's reverse transcription? Basically, it's like a sneak attack. It's a Trojan horse. It's just RNA, no problem. Well, reverse transcriptase goes along the RNA, viral RNA that shouldn't be harmful, and goes ahead and reverse transcribes it into viral DNA, and now you've got viral DNA and you're in trouble. So that's trick number one. We'll get to trick number two on Thursday, but I want to talk about Ebola a little bit since we're almost done with that movie. The thing about viruses in general is that they are very specific. They only like what they like. A bacteriophage, the kind that infects bacteria, it's not going to infect the protist. you're not going to get your dog's flu. You're not going to give your cat your cold. They're specific. They're generally very species specific. They don't usually jump from one kind of host to another. There are viruses specific to every kind of organism on Earth. Every living thing on Earth has viruses that specifically infect it. Bacteria, protists, fungi, plants, and animals. All of them get viruses. But the viruses don't generally jump. You can't get Dutch elm disease just like an elm tree can't get a cold.
If a virus infects somebody, is it like eating itself? Is virus to extinction? Everybody gets the virus and dies.
It's a good question. You're basically establishing that a lethal strategy in a virus is not always a good one, right? The goal of a virus is not necessarily to kill its host. The goal of a virus is to reproduce and get into more hosts, right? So rarely does that result in death, but when it does, you're in trouble, right? And we'll talk about when it does. So they're specific to every kingdom, and they also tend to, in a multicellular organism, they tend to be pretty choosy about which kind of cell. A rhinovirus, for example. Do you know what that is? Do you know what the root rhino actually means? It has to do with why we call a rhinoceros a rhinoceros. It doesn't mean horn. It's dumber than that. It means nose. Rhino means nose, which means somebody thought that thing was a rhino's nose. Anyway, rhinoviruses is the category that the common cold belongs to, because they tend to like to start replicating in the cells, the mucous membranes of the nose, right? So rhinoviruses don't like any other type of cell besides mucous membranes, besides the stuff lining your nose and throat. So they don't jump to other cell types, right? So you're cool. It's just this stuff that the cold's going to be into. But here's the big exception, is that it's rare, right? I said it's rare that they jump to a different type of host. It's rare that they're not specific to cell types, but when they do, we're in trouble. It's the viruses that break those rules that scare the heck out of us. And for one, that's Ebola. Ebola is a virus that jumped from some species in the rainforest. I don't think they even know yet which species. You saw them looking at bats. They definitely looked at monkeys a lot. Monkeys are pretty common because they're genetically similar to us, so it would make sense for viruses to jump, if they're gonna jump from something that's genetically similar to humans into humans. But it really sucks when they do, because we as a species, we as humans have been evolving with our viruses. It's a form of coevolution, right? It's an arms race. The virus gets a new trick. We evolved to survive that trick. We've been evolving with the normal flu and the normal cold for millions, well, at least hundreds of thousands of years. But when one of those viruses accidentally picks up a new strand of DNA, like in the case of H1N1, when one of those viruses jumps from another species to us, like in the case of Ebola, that's why we call it a novel virus. If you've heard of novel coronavirus, that means it's something that our immune systems haven't been evolving with for thousands of years. And so it's real scary, because your body can basically overreact to it and cause huge problems. Pandemics tend to be novel viruses like that that jump. Ebola, in addition, is one that does kind of get general in which cells it likes, right? You heard the German guy talking about how it infects all organs of the body. That's why I said it kind of liquefies your insides. Well, that's how. It's not real specific about which cell type it infects. And so it breaks both of those rules, which is one thing that makes Ebola pretty scary. Does that make sense? That's all I really want to talk about today. Good. You are ready for tomorrow. Don't stress about it, but be intense. Get through it all. Mark the questions you have trouble with for the end. Yeah, I'm not worried about you at all. Don?
Is it one part?
2 parts. Yeah, we're taking both parts tomorrow.